can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
The world seems to be spinning faster. New technologies are accelerating our lives. The markets are changing faster and faster. New products and services are disrupting old ones, and huge companies are disappearing. We all feel the speed and the need to compete. Our demands have increased in our private and business lives. We want instant answers and no waiting time. Time is the most valuable asset of human beings. Nobody wants to waste it for poor service. Customer experience has become a crucial competitive factor. Cognigy makes life easier for everyone and service a magical experience. We will help you to improve your service quality and cut costs at the same time. Our platform based on AI delivers personalized experiences at scale. Conversational service automation is the future of customer service. Cognigy AI. No time to waste.
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like Data Robot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers? This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to Data Robot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Wonderful, folks. Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1. 0+1. Affirmative.
Keep going, baby.
Still rising. Recorders on.
Keep going. Look at her go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.
How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities, from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful.
At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
seems to be spinning faster. New technologies are accelerating our lives. The markets are changing faster and faster. New products and services are disrupting old ones, and huge companies are disappearing. We all feel the speed and the need to compete. Our demands have increased in our private and business lives. We want instant answers and no waiting time. Time is the most valuable asset of human beings. Nobody wants to waste it for poor service. Customer experience has become a crucial competitive factor. Cognigy makes life easier for everyone and service a magical experience. We will help you to improve your service quality and cut costs at the same time. Our platform based on AI delivers personalized experiences at scale. Conversational service automation is the future of customer service. Cognigy AI. No time to waste.
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like DataRobot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers? This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to DataRobot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstroDB, check out the other videos in our AstroDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Waterfall ball. Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1. 0+1. Affirmative.
going, baby.
Recorders.
Keep going. Look at her go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to Transform 2022, the Data Analytics Summit. Now, if you missed any of the content from this week's event, it's now available on demand. Just click into the sessions to get access to the content within that session. Of course, we are so excited to have over 3,000 attendees registered and joining virtually. So we have to thank each and every one of you. And of course, we've split this year's virtual event into 6 days, 6 topics. Today's summit will cover data analytics. Of course, this event would not be possible without the tremendous support from all our incredible sponsors. Thank you so much for supporting this great event and for providing the great content for you, our wonderful audience. This event is being hosted on an interactive platform, of course. You can connect with other attendees. For example, you can create your own schedule. All you have to do is star your most must-attend sessions. Once you do this, you're going to find them under My Interests, which you'll find on top of the agenda. You can meet other attendees using the network navigation above, You can search through the entire attendee list to find like-minded individuals and chat with them. You can visit the sponsor profiles, and please do. You go to the sponsor and navigation above and check out all of their latest content. They've got launches, news, reports, white papers, products, everything you possibly could need. And the more sessions you view, the more sponsor profiles that you check out, and the more games that you play, you're going to earn points. And that's going to be on the leaderboard. You can check your leaderboard position anytime. And if you feel like you need to earn more points, go ahead. Just interact with the platform. And the people that are on top of the leaderboard are going to win some great prizes. So don't forget, if you want to ask questions, remember to use the type chat box you're going to find on the right of the session. If the speaker is available to answer questions, they're going to be waiting for you and they'll respond via type chat. So don't be shy, get involved, ask all the questions that are burning through your mind. And if you want more information on how to best utilize the platform, you'll find a handy how-to video. It's very short, but it's very succinct and very informative. You'll find that right in the agenda. And of course, we're into day 3 of asking you to bring hashtags back. Use hashtag VBTransform. Join in the conversation using hashtag VBTransform anywhere that you can use a hashtag, or tag us at VentureBeat. So let's get this day kicked off. Click into the next session at 9 a.m. Pacific to hear Shriram Krishnasamy, CEO of FedEx DataWorks. And Shriram will be talking to Sharon Goldman, Senior Editor and Writer for VentureBeat, about how FedEx weathered a winter storm by leveraging AI. Welcome to the first session of Transform's Data Analytics Summit. We're kicking off with a great fireside chat. Shriram Krishnasamy, CEO of FedEx DataWorks, talks to Sharon Goldman, Senior Editor and Writer for VentureBeat, about how FedEx developed a fully automated dashboard to monitor critical shipments and enable operators to manage exceptions during Storm Uri of February 2021. When FedEx was serving critical healthcare accounts. And of course, if you have any questions for the speakers, remember to use that type chat box on the right. It's going to add points to the leaderboard and you may win some prizes. So think of some great questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sharon Goldman. I'm a senior writer and editor at VentureBeat. I cover AI and machine learning here at VentureBeat, so I'm particularly excited to talk to Shriram Krishnasamy, CEO of FedEx DataWorks. So I'm going to immediately turn it over to Sri to introduce himself. And Sri, I wonder if you could also talk to us a little bit about what DataWorks is, the origin of FedEx DataWorks. That would be great.
Thank you, Sharon. It's wonderful to talk to you. So I've been a career FedExer
20 plus years across Asia, Europe, and over the past 5 years based here in the US out of Memphis, Tennessee. I've had multiple roles at FedEx across different functions. But since early 2020, I've been one of the people who started this entity called DataWorks within FedEx. So what is DataWorks? I mean, FedEx is really known for its immense global physical network, multiple geographies, 15 million shipments a day, 90+% of global GDP. But what's probably not really well known is every one of these shipments generates significantly valuable data from who shipped, who did they ship to, what industry verticals, to the extent that the scale of this data that comes out of the FedEx physical network every day, you can actually think of it as a microcosm of global trade. Traditionally, as FedEx, we've looked at this data as how to take the historical context and do the analysis that's required to optimize the network, but we have never thought of how to bring this unstructured data together and drive insights, and insights that people find valuable enough to be able to monetize it. So that's the origin of DataWorks, the ability to look at FedEx's data deliberately to see how can we take this incredibly rich data ecosystem, combine it with external data like weather, power, traffic, our customers' supply chains, and start to create insights and value that helps make supply chain smarter, which, by the way, is our mission statement as well. And we look at it across 3 dimensions, leveraging data, advanced analytics, AI, ML to help change FedEx's business, help digitize our customers' supply chain, and participate in wider data ecosystems and move up the e-commerce value chain. That's the framework of what DataWorks is. This journey started in early 2020 with a team of 6 people, and we ended 2021 with more than 500 people, and we've delivered some very interesting and very powerful solutions, which is contextually relevant today, given the supply chain crisis that all of us are facing, and it's boardroom conversation across every entity that you can think of.
Well, that's an amazing evolution. And I know we've got a really interesting story to discuss today on this. So many of us remember kind of historic winter storm in 2021 in February. It really crippled much of the southern US. And I know that it really significantly impacted FedEx's service levels, especially, you might not realize it, everyone, but critical healthcare accounts, deliveries getting made. So I was wondering what it was like for you and your DataWorks team when you realized what had happened and that you really needed to figure it out, right away in real time, pretty much.
Oof, I can remember that clearly. I can remember the day I got the call clearly. Sharon, more than DataWorks, when we had that severe winter storm, Memphis is one of the most critical nodes in FedEx's network. It's our hub. It's at the core of the hub and spoke model where packages go through Memphis to be delivered at their end destination. And when we had the severe winter storm that we had, Memphis came to a standstill. There were containers and containers of shipments at the hub that we needed to prioritize and clear. And to your point, we needed to know if it's healthcare, it's the one that we need to focus first and move it forward. Healthcare, perishables, critical shipments, etc. More than that, FedEx, the company that it is, every one of us volunteered to go to the hub and help do the sort with the hub employees. And while we were at it, our COO at that time and now the CEO of FedEx, Raj Subramanian, called me and said, in DataWorks, you guys have built this powerful data infrastructure. Now, is there any way you could provide us insight on what exactly is stuck in Memphis Hub at this point of time and how do we prioritize? This was a Saturday morning at 11, and the DataWorks team swung into action. And by 11 in the night, the same day, we had the first visibility dashboard. We started with that visibility dashboard and we put it in the hands of all our hub employees to help prioritize and clear shipments. And it was so useful for them, the ability to visualize data and provide them real-time insights, especially contextualizing that data to who is it coming from, who is it going to, what's important, how do you prioritize. it became a powerful planning tool. What started as a stopgap for one critical event has become a powerful planning tool for the healthcare industry, which we now call medical service tower. So the moment a shipment enters the Memphis hub, for critical healthcare customers, we built the capability that not just monitors, but also predicts potential risks for these shipments and monitors the journey of that package through the hub, all the way from the point of entry to the point of time where it's put in an aircraft and the aircraft leaves. And we started with Memphis, and it was such a big success that every big air center of FedEx in the US, so Memphis, Indianapolis, Oakland in California, Miami, all of these ramps now have adopted medical service tower, and it's how we manage our critical healthcare shipments to as they go through our facilities. I mean, the point is, this is the power of data, to be able to leverage real-time data. And what that helps you do is become predictive, proactive, and prescriptive. So it's not just about knowing what could go wrong, but it's also being prescriptive about how to predict what could go wrong and put measures in place to mitigate risks as much as possible. And our customers have given us absolutely great feedback on this capability. So what started as a 12-hour journey is now a scaled tool across every large air facility of FedEx here in the US.
Great. Yeah. So as you said, this is a fully automated dashboard. It's powered by machine learning, and it monitors every critical shipment coming into the hub, and it enables operators to manage, by exception in real time. I wanted to know if you could talk about the actual machine learning tools that were used to develop this and the challenges that had to be overcome to make it work in the ways you needed it to work.
Absolutely. As you know, FedEx is not just one network. FedEx is a combination of three networks, at least here in the US. You've got FedEx Express, you've got FedEx Ground, you've got FedEx Freight. These are large networks that are running across the United States. Millions of miles driven, hundreds of aircrafts flown every night to be able to operate these networks. Traditionally, these networks grew in silos. They all had their own operating systems, operating processes, governance, etc. And when we built DataWorks, one of the first things we did is built an operating company agnostic big data lake, and we call that data lake Atlas. And from then on, the first thing we did is built a machine learning model that we call package fingerprint, that from any zip code to any zip code, when a package enters the FedEx network, irrespective of what the network is, what are the important events in that journey of that package? And what are the threshold times to each of these important events in order to make sure that the package stays on its happy path and gets delivered? That machine learning model is what we call package fingerprint. And the power of that machine learning model is it adapts. If there's a constraint in the network at a point of time, if there is a change in plan on how the network operates, in real time live, the machine learning model, the package fingerprint model adapts and starts to predict which of these shipments are on their happy path. And the moment there is an exception, it highlights that exception way ahead of time before it's too late when you realize that package can't meet commit. What that does is helps us put mitigation measures in place, helps us put exception measures in place in order to be able to keep the package on its happy path. Along with the power of the FedEx's physical network, an exception reporting tool that we built as leveraging this package fingerprint model was one of the key attributes of being able to distribute such a significant number of vaccines in such a short period of time across the United States. We built this predictive tool leveraging this machine learning model, and we were able to predict exceptions to vaccine distribution so our operations team could swing into action and be able to execute those exceptions to make sure that the packages stay on the happy path. So to your question, that's one of the core fundamental models that we built. It's complex because the network is complex and there's petabytes of data that needs to be acquired, cleaned, processed, and made ready for this machine learning model to create accurate predictions and accurate outcomes. That's one of the big challenges, right? Bringing together data from multiple different silos into a single data infrastructure, creating a data taxonomy that's common for FedEx as an enterprise, and be able to leverage that to build models that are powerful, high efficacy, high accuracy, and execution. Of course, that's the big data machine learning part of it. But whatever tools and capabilities you build, there is a human element involved here. It's people who run networks, and it's people who need to adopt these tools, and it's people who these tools benefit. And that is a process of education. That is a process of continuous improvement, and that's a process of building tools and capabilities with context and empathy in mind. Right? That is the most important thing, and that change management exercise is incredibly important. However good your model is, if the users of the model, whether it's FedEx employees or it's our customers, don't see the contextual and empathetic value of the prediction you're building, adoption is going to be a challenge, and success is going to be a challenge. So it's a combination of building out this infrastructure in such a short time, this data infrastructure in such a short time, be able to create and execute models that are useful in governing a supply chain and managing human adoption, and getting people on to adopt, use, give us feedback so we can continuously iterate, evolve, and grow these models, has been the journey that we've been on, everything from challenges to the successes that we faced.
Great. Well, speaking of people, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the response to this automated dashboard. What have people said? What have the specific results been like? Do you have any metrics that you can share there?
Yeah, I mean, the users, once they started using these models and started to see the power of availability and access to data in real time, and provide it to them in a way where they can use this data and this insight to be able to make the right decisions. It has been a self-fulfilling prophecy. As they say, success breeds success. So the early adopters, for whom this machine learning and AI-driven insights added value, have been the biggest proponent of this change, right? And they have been the people who have helped us develop the products better and further and more contextual to the problems of the day that they face. That's the internal customer side. From an external customer side, some of the feedback we've gotten from our customers and the predicted tools that we built has been overwhelmingly positive. The idea is, instead of being a vendor or a service provider to a customer where it's a transactional relationship, the ability to build this joint data infrastructure and plan and optimize together all the way from the norm to the exceptions has changed the conversation of how we talk to our customers. These joint data platforms makes FedEx's network an extension of our customers' product and their promise to their customers. And again, as much as I'm really proud and I'm explaining the journey that we've been on, in the crawl, walk, run paradigm, we're still in the crawl phase. This is just the beginning. We're just scratching the surface. The scale and size of FedEx's data is so immense. These are some of the first applications that we've put in place. I mean, if I have to give you an example, FedEx moves millions of shipments across borders. The intelligence that sits in FedEx on how to clear a shipment from any country to any country, what documentation is required, how do we make it easy, is such a powerful set of data and insights that's sitting in FedEx's data infrastructure that we haven't yet created a tool and capability to monetize. If you think about a small and medium business who makes a really good product out of Buffalo, New York, their biggest challenge is not being able to sell it on their website to a customer in Germany. Their biggest challenge is, how do I get it there? How much is it going to cost? And what kind of paperwork do I need to clear it and get it to that customer? We can take the FedEx's the data that's sitting there on our clearance intelligence and make that such an easy process for a small and medium business to be able to scale their business globally. That's one example. The second example is, the discussion of the day, right? I mean, environment and sustainability is such an important topic. And FedEx has made this bold, big commitment to be carbon neutral by 2040. We have so much data on any package from any point to another point on what kind of modes of transport does it go through? How much goes on a long haul truck? How much is in the last mile pickup and delivery truck? What's on a plane? And what kind of carbon emission is each package generating? And what we've started to build out as DataWorks is a carbon calculator that at package level is able to provide the CO2 impact and also pre-shipping, being able to provide this intelligence to put the power in the hands of the consumers to decide what is an environmentally conscious decision to make in terms of when do you want that thing that you ordered online to get to your house. So these are some of the examples of the frontiers that we are starting to explore. What we've done has been an incredible journey over the past 2.5, 3 years, but I still would say that we're in the crawl phase. We are yet to learn how to walk and run because the opportunity, the potential, the scale and size of FedEx's data infrastructure and its relevance to the world today in being able to add value from the insights out of this data is immense. And the journey ahead is really long and exciting.
Great. Well, we have about 1.5 minutes left. I'd love to close by just asking you if there are any other, big lessons learned from this initiative around this automated dashboard and how it might impact, future innovations to continue to be meaningful and relevant, like you were just talking about, to your customers.
That is the biggest lesson, Sharon. Big data, machine learning, and AI are incredibly powerful tools. I mean, they are going to digitize commerce, and that is not a question of if, that's a question of when. We're already well ahead on that path. But the most important thing is putting the customer, the user, in front of the solution. You're building it for someone, and they need to find it useful, and they need to find it useful enough to pay for it. Right? That's the fundamental context, and hence, customer-driven design is at the core of how you build out these capabilities. We can never lose sight on and build a platform or a capability for its own sake. It's about making it contextual, empathetic, and useful for the people to whom we're building this for.
Wow. Well, thanks so much, Sri. This is really terrific. I've loved this conversation. I could do it for twice as long at least, but we're just about out of time. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sharon. It was wonderful talking to you. Thanks so much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for starting off the day with such a fascinating case study. Our next session will be starting at 9:20 a.m. Pacific with Amin Kazaruni, Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Orange Theory, on making sure that you are putting your data to work in preparation for being machine learning ready. Click the above link to watch this session. Hi everyone, and welcome to your virtual online Orange Theory class. Well, sort of. This conversation is not to be missed. Alison Ryder, Senior Project Editor of MIT Sloan Management Review, will be talking to Amin Kazaruni, Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Orange Theory. They're going to discuss how simple data analytics methods and the right organizational structure can help drive a company to be increasingly data-driven with smaller incremental investments. And of course, if you have any questions for our speakers, remember to use that type chat box on the right. So over to you, Alison and Amin.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you today. I'm Alison Ryder, Senior Project Editor at MIT Sloan Management Review, where I manage collaborative research programs, and many of those focus on artificial intelligence and business strategy. So very excited to be a part of this conference and talking with a leader in this field specifically. So today's talk, we have a brief fireside chat for you with Amin Kazarouni. He's the Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Orange Theory Fitness. For those of you who might not know, Orange Theory is a science-backed, technology-tracked, coach-inspired group workout designed to produce results from the inside out. So they are a national business and have some really interesting insights to share about data and analytics. So Amin, welcome. We're really looking forward to talking today.
Likewise, Alison. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that introduction. I'm very excited for today's conversation.
Excellent. I'd love to start, I know you want to focus actually this talk on, we're calling it how simple data analytics can put your data to work before you're ML ready. So we do want to talk about how smaller organizations can make use of the data and analytics tools they have already in-house to make smarter decisions, make better business moves, et cetera. I was curious, though, if you could talk us through a little bit about your background. I know you're coming to Orange Theory from Zappos, so a little bit about just your background in the technology space and kind of what your main focus is at Orange Theory today.
Absolutely. So like you mentioned, my role at Orange Theory is that of Chief Data and Analytics Officer. Over the course of my career, I've used machine learning in a variety of different spaces, from clinical research and medical imaging in the cancer space, and data warehouse design, e-commerce, and machine learning at scale at Zappos, like you mentioned, and now health and wellness. For me, my passion's always been around unlocking a company's capability using the data and not even necessarily a company. Any organization that's on a mission, that's trying to achieve a purpose, can probably do it better, more efficiently when they unlock their data. And that's kind of what excites me. Domain agnostic. How do we leverage the data that a company has collected? Orange Theory is particularly exciting to me because the mission of More Life is such an exciting one. The ability to see hundreds of thousands of people take a particular workout on a given day and have that data in large volumes flow in, that just shows irrefutably that these people are getting healthier, is very exciting to be the mission that we're trying to operationalize our data to help fulfill. So at Orange Theory, my job is kind of multi-pronged. I think first it's important to point out that Orange Theory is a relatively greenfield environment when it comes to data and analytics. Collecting data and being data tracked has always been in Orange Theory's DNA, and I think our members know that. But now we want to take that data and even double down on that promise even more, double down on those results even more. And that's kind of the gig at Orange Theory right now. The more traditional roles of marketing and schedule optimization and using machine learning to drive a variety of operational efficiencies also falls within my purview. But the more exciting part of it is that second-by-second heart rate telemetry data coming off our treadmills and our rowers to build an environment that allows us to really show each individual member that they're progressing, while also creating a personalized environment for them to push themselves to their limit and not have to prescribe to other people's limits. So it's a very exciting opportunity, and I'm pumped to dig into it today.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, just speaking firsthand, this is in no way sponsored that I am a member of Orange Theory, but I was really excited to talk with you today, but to dig into this a little bit. This is really members opting into this, right? So they are choosing to wear a heart rate monitor that's then transmitting that data. And I mean, as from my experience, it's really first and foremost for me as a user to see how I'm performing day to day, how that's changing, how, to your point, it's improving over time. But then when we think about it on the company scale, how much data you're able to gather and use for the betterment of the various class templates that you're designing, the programs overall, and that trickling down, of course, to long-term health and wellness of your members, I think is super interesting. And I'm curious, maybe we can bridge over to, making these lessons generalizable for other organizations. You would classify yours as somewhat of a smaller data collection organization, although hundreds of thousands of members feeding you data. I'm sure some of our audience will say, well, wait a second, I have a much smaller customer base or a client base or whoever I'm trying to serve by making smarter and more data-informed decisions. But at the same time, you're really taking that philosophy of kind of starting small and scaling. Maybe tell us a little bit about your thoughts around that. I mean, when you're just getting started, you're collecting some data. how do you wrap your arms around this? Where do you want to start when you want to think about whether it's automating a process or making a decision that's just more informed by a data set than we talked previously about, getting away from intuition and just kind of making judgment guesses based on what we think might be right?
Yeah, I think that's just some of the points you touched on in the question itself are so critical to really leveraging your data efficiently. We live in a time where companies are just collecting data. No matter what the use case, what they're going to do with it, companies are collecting data. And that's both exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking because the volume of data that's being collected and the way it's being collected is not necessarily always being done with a use case in mind. So as a data leader coming into an organization that is collecting a tremendous volume of information, one of my first kind of initiatives was, do we have a shared language? Do we have a common way of talking about the information we've collected so that the insight we derive from this information actually means the same thing when we're talking to each other about it? I think a lot of CEOs or chief operating officers or CFOs at companies that have collected large volumes of data will probably run into this. This may sound familiar to them, is the metrics everyone uses the same name, but the value is different depending on which data source you got it from. And that should almost never be the case. So standardizing that shared language and that governance process makes your data infinitely more valuable. And I think the next step from there was talking to the various executives and, just like you said, identifying where there was kind of painful, mundane processes that were just repetitive tasks that you needed a domain expert who was probably better off doing something else, but having to do this repetitive task over and over again. And two, when critical decisions were being made with intuition rather than data. And that can honestly be broken up into two families. One where the person making the decision is kind of uncomfortable and wished for data. And one where the person making the decision was like, I've done this for 5 decades, I got it, right? I don't need a data-driven decision. I understand this industry. And I think that as a data practitioner, that kind of buy-in and trust is so critical that the first two areas that I recommend tackling are simplify or automate a recurrent, time-consuming process. I think that immediately, one, lets you build up capability while having immediate buy-in because you're helping your stakeholder upfront. And two, remove that discomfort. If there's a decision that is intuition-based, that is uncomfortable to make, that we'd love to have data around, democratize that data and make it available immediately. I think once you start getting buy-in there and that trust relationship builds up, you can start tackling some of the more exciting, bigger problems.
Definitely. Yeah, it's funny how you talk about automating rote processes. I think we still, when we go to market and talk about our research studies, we still are hit with those preliminary questions around, will automating this take my job away? And we were still battling that. Well, no, this will free you to do more things. And we actually, last fall, released a study on the cultural benefits of AI, and we actually saw organizations reporting back that once they do implement certain processes using AI, their teams were finding they were happier, they collaborated more, they felt there was more distributed learning, not the exact same words you use, but really that idea around there's better understanding and common language for things and we feel more aligned. And so you're seeing the business result will obviously trickle down from that. But we were really interested in just understanding how employees were feeling about this. Anyone from the contributor level up to the C-suite, were they feeling better about things versus, oh, the technology is taking my job from me, it's automating my life away. And I think we are slowly moving toward that mindset where more and more organizations are feeling that way and seeing the benefits. And to your point too, really thinking about, we don't need to automate every single thing we do. There are some instances where maybe the machine can gather a lot of data for us, and then it does fall on us to make a choice between option A or option B. And we can leverage some of our experience, to some degree intuition, but it's just backed by the data now. And so you're starting to transition yourself into that thought mindset. So I think for companies thinking about this too, there's not going to be a one size fits all. I mean, I think we can give some linear steps toward definitely start with alignment, start with common language, start with definition. I think too, maybe if you have any suggestions around data quality, right? You talked about labeling and naming conventions, but also I think a benefit that the smaller organization may have, or one that's more newly trying to collect specific types of data, is they may be less distributed. right? They may not be in 5 different places. They may not have a data lake in one site and, not have people communicating about how to share them. But, have you grappled with that in the past, or have you recently had to kind of align or organize or structure your data in a way that you could offer some general suggestions for folks who are stuck at that stage? Because I think that's a daunting one. Oh no, what do I do?
I think that's a really good question, and one that we tackle. And I think it really depends on if you're not a technology native kind of organization where your tech is not your product, or you're not considered a tech organization, you probably have a decent dependency on vendors. And those vendors are where your data is really being generated. And a lot of this idea of a modern data stack is predicated on, we will remove the need for you to have to bring your data in. And all these vendors just have APIs connecting with each other. One of the decisions that we've made, and I don't know if this is my opinion on the best way to kind of go about it, is following a kind of hub and spoke approach, where I like the idea of building your own differentiator and not trying to build everything in-house, especially if technology is not your kind of bread and butter and you just need a piece of technology to get a very specific job done. But I also believe in taking the data from that vendor and bringing it in-house to a central hub or data lake, which is effectively use the data at the point of generation for the purpose it was generated for. And if you need to leverage that data elsewhere or connect it to a different data asset, bring it to a centralized hub, connect the data there, and then redistribute it as needed. I think being a younger company that is just getting started on that data journey, you're actually very well equipped to do this efficiently, just given how many solutions are out there and given the lack of technical debt that you're kind of embroiled in if you just started even 5 years ago. So I think keeping that in mind and leveraging that almost strategic advantage you have, where existing critical processes don't depend on a wildly distributed collection of data, and starting with a centralized kind of hub and spoke approach will allow you to just drive velocity. And I think just digging into that modern data stack a little bit more, and it's a fun phrase, a lot of people are using it, but I think it's exciting to keep in mind that when it comes to building a strong data and analytics organization, everyone thinks that you got to start with machine learning. And that's kind of the message. If there's one key takeaway here, is you really want to start with bringing your data in, creating a shared language, and then being able to automate expensive processes and replace intuition with data, or at least augment intuition with data. You'll start seeing the benefits of your data immediately without having to make large technological investments up front, rather than if you're like, let's find something that we can swing machine learning at and work backwards from that.
Definitely. You kind of preempted my next question. I've spoken with some leaders who've said, well, it takes X amount of time to really affect change. And that's going to depend, of course, on the size of the organization, where the data is sitting, what the alignment and buy-in looks like toward a project. But is there a general rubric? Like, I remember this particular individual from one of the ride-sharing organizations, like a car-sharing company, had said to me, figure it's going to be about a quarter from when you start and you want to actually see results from something. I mean, that might be optimistic for some organizations, but I just wonder if people are trying to think about, well, you say immediately I'm going to see results. How do you see a process like this unfolding? What's a reasonable timeline, I guess I would say, to not be discouraged by something like this? Because I feel like it's going to require some level of commitment and toughness to wear through it.
I think that's a really good question. And I think in my mind, I see it as the answer is two-pronged, right? When you first get started, I would say a quarter is very optimistic. I would give your data leader the space and the permission to take 2, even 3 quarters to get the foundations down. And a good data leader will use those 3 quarters to identify a really high value automation that allows for critical building blocks to get invested in along the way, but then there's some ROI at the end of it. I think the second perspective there is you could probably dedicate a small team or a group of vendors for 3 quarters and solve a very specific ML-driven problem as well. I think what we don't realize then is that each one of those will take that 3-quarter ramp up where you want to get in a team of people, find the problem, build an ML solution, hire data scientists, etc. While the more analytics, descriptive stats, decision science style approach, each one you solve or solve for will likely increase the velocity with which you're able to serve the next one. So those 3 quarters will turn into 2 quarters, but then get you to that point where you can comfortably say something like, well, expect at least a quarter to see tangible results. So I think it's really a matter of taking the time and recognizing that it's an investment. It's not, there's no silver bullet. You don't get a data-centric organization for free. So there is an investment to be made. The question is, will that investment give you a one-to-many output? It will solve for the problem you built it for, but then allow you to solve for problems around it or adjacent problems. I think that's that framework that I at least keep in my mind while thinking through this.
Right. Well, I like that too, because it probably trickles out beyond just the pure muscle, if you will, of the capability of the talent doing that work, but it's also those strategic conversations you're having, the cross-functional alignment. I feel like alignment is my top buzzword of this conversation, but it's so important. And I've talked to so many data science leaders who are also saying, well, I came in and I really had to help my team just build up their confidence in the organization and message to senior leadership what we do, why we do it, and kind of go around to different business unit heads and say, we can offer the service to you. Do you want us to try this? Okay, great. And then there's a pilot in one unit and it can scale to another just by virtue of starting to see those fast results. And maybe they are smaller projects or solving for smaller problems, but they allow you to scale because you have all of those component parts in place, right? That it's not just that you've got the processing down, you've got the right tool in place, but you've kind of built that cultural acceptance, if you will, of these types of processes and the interest in seeing the return on them.
You know, the one thing I'll add that we've kind of not touched upon is the people. I think organizations just don't realize that these are not small teams, and the teams take investment and the people are hard to find. So I think that if you, and this is honestly a plea to the CEOs or the CTOs or the CFOs approving budgets for data leaders, it really does take that large investment up front and it will start paying dividends. But if you try and make compromises early, you kind of don't realize that you're setting yourself for certain pitfalls that will happen and will prevent you from delivering a tangible experience from your data. So I think investing in the people is just as important as investing in the technology.
Absolutely. And I think that's a fantastic note to end on. So, Amin, I thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your insights. Wish you great luck in your endeavors at Orange Theory, and hope that our audience found some interesting insights in here. I know I could take some notes and give you a kind of what to do next guide based on this talk today. So really appreciate you sharing your experiences with us. Thank you.
Likewise, Allison, this was a lot of fun, and hopefully there was some key takeaways for our audience.
Thanks for that wonderful conversation, Amin and Allison. Small and big companies can learn a lot from Orange Theory. I absolutely believe that. And of course, you're doing excellent work. So stay tuned for the next session on how to use data to transform customer experience with Mike Maresca, CTO of Walgreens Boots Alliance. Welcome to the session, Using Data and Insights to Transform the Customer Experience at Walgreens Boots Alliance. Lenore Aileen from VentureBeat will be discussing with Mike Maresca, CTO of Walgreens Boots Alliance, about how Walgreens is using data and insights to improve customer experience. Of course, this is very important for every single organization out there, no matter how big or small. Of course, if you've got any questions, you know where to go by now. It's the type chat box on the right-hand side. So without further ado, let's get into it. Please welcome Mike and Lenore.
Hello, welcome to Transform 2022. My name is Lenore Aline, Executive Editor at VentureBeat. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this fireside chat with Mike Maresca of Walgreens Boots Alliance. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself and share a little bit about why you're here today?
I sure would. Thanks, Lenore. Mike Maresca, Chief Technology Officer at Walgreens Boots Alliance. Such a pleasure to be here. I lead technology strategy at WBA and also lead many of our transformation efforts, which are engineering some of the best of our digital as well as in-store customer experiences. So I'm very excited to share some of my thinking, but also some of the progress we've made over the last 2-3 years in terms of transforming how we interact with our customers and our patients across a 13,000 store organization that is really deeply embedded in our communities and so passionate about serving our patients and our customers. So good to be with you today. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. So let's just jump right in. What does customer experience mean for Walgreens Boots Alliance, especially as it relates to your role as global CTO?
Yeah, very good question. So customer experience to me is constantly evolving how you interact with your customers, and that is becoming a customer-first organization. You prioritize those interactions, whether they be in your stores or whether they be online, and you put the customer in the middle. And what we've tried to do across, I think, the three really major businesses that we have, the retail business, our pharmacy business, and our growing healthcare business, is to make sure that we develop an experience that meets the customer where they need it, whether it be the retail products, the medicines that they need in order to, serve their health needs, but also even a growing ecosystem of healthcare services, whether it be weight loss, whether that be labs, whether that be actually clinical services. But how do we connect those experiences so they feel like it's a single integrated experience that serves their needs best? And as Global Chief Technology Officer, driving those experiences has been energizing in the sense that I think technology, the use of data, how we actually support those capabilities on new platforms like the cloud, it's been energizing because as we've seen over the last 2 years with the pandemic, the way we connect with our patients, our customers, and you'll hear me say that in both ways because we do have both customers and patients, has changed so much, especially with like I said, with the pandemic, where our foot traffic actually changed, but yet we were essential businesses that had to continue to be on the front lines in our communities. There's a little known fact that here in the U.S., each one of our stores is, 80% of the U.S. population is within 5 miles of our stores, of a Walgreens store, and that was very critical to us that we were in our communities and able to meet their needs, as those needs changed over the last couple of years, and they continue to change. Even though we see ourselves kind of moving out of this pandemic, there's new expectations in terms of the capabilities and how, and I think that the pandemic itself actually helped accelerate some of that, the telehealth capabilities in which we can give, clinical advice over the iPad that I'm talking to you on now. So we've been trying to rapidly invest in our technologies and roll out capabilities that do create that, those capabilities that really help our patients and create that experience. So it's been energizing as a CTO in the last 2 years to see so much change, and I'm really encouraged about what's next.
So you've talked a lot about the scale of Walgreens Boots Alliance. It's massive, you're global. What are the technology headwinds and tailwinds you're facing daily?
Well, that's an interesting question because there are quite a few. There's a lot of tailwinds, a lot of headwinds. I think headwinds-wise, it is evolving our workforce with the technology change, new capabilities in cloud, data and analytics. We've recently introduced Adobe and the Adobe platform. These are all new capabilities to our workforce. So how do we continue to advance their skills? I'm passionate about our team members. They they're so critical to what we do, and technology is changing so fast. I think there's a stat out there that says you have to reskill yourself every 3 to 4 years in technology, and I believe that because I've seen the changes over the last 2 or 3 years. So I would say talent, continuous learning, but also a culture of innovation, right? Continuing to kind of drive new thinking with these new technologies and how we can use it to drive the customer experience that I mentioned with the last question. So I think talent and continuous learning. Now, in order to address that, we've actually rolled out what we call our IT Academy, which is a wonderful online school that are a set of courses that allow us to really take our IT workforce to the next level. In terms of, if I think about the customer, some of the headwinds there, but also some of the opportunities, is over the last 2 years, we've had to modernize our platforms, right? So I think I mentioned previously that we introduced new cloud capabilities. We couldn't do what we do, introduce the capabilities that are so vital to our customers unless we have the power of the cloud. So we have a strategic partnership with Microsoft. We now, I think, are close to 50% of our capabilities are now in the cloud, and all new services are being delivered on the cloud platform. It is, we couldn't do it at the speed, but also the scale. You mentioned the scale. The scale that we have is massive in terms of, I think it's roughly about 9 million customer interactions, either in our stores or online. The cloud is actually helping us deliver that in a scaled but also resilient way. So I think the modernization that we've kind of undertaken in the last 2 or 3 years, while tough and challenging, has been so critical for us to deliver what actually really excites me, and that is the things that we're actually delivering to our customers and our patients, and that is new capabilities. We talked about mass personalization. This is a way for us to drive awareness of our products and services to our customers, but in a very personalized experience. Buy online, pick up in store. That was a vital capability that we didn't have at the start of the pandemic. We now have been able to deliver a best-in-class capability of that. Industry leading. You can click online and collect it within 30 minutes. So you think about all the things that had to go right. We didn't have the technology, but we also had to train our store team members. And we had to have a digital experience that allowed them to shop and view and select our products online. So, that's what, I would say the tailwinds, the momentum that we have because of some of the investments we made. Telehealth is another example. Being able to bring our pharmacists closer to our patients through digital channels and provide the advisory services that they need to help with their health and wellness. So I would say, those 3 areas, talent, how we modernize our technology. Now we have these modern platforms, but also, identifying the needs and actually anticipating the needs for our customers and our patients even more so than we do today. And I think we're making some good progress with some of the new capabilities we rolled out in the last couple of years.
So you touched on this a little bit there about customer behavior, the ability to pick up, things curbside and how that's influencing how you guys are evolving the customer experience. Can you tell me some more about that, how consumer behavior and expectations are playing into how you're developing this experience going forward?
Yeah, so customer behavior continues to evolve, and I'm telling you things that you already know and are probably fairly intuitive. I actually think the pandemic actually just accelerated intensifying those needs. And of course, there's some retail trends around experience and convenience that we were already dealing with within our business and actually dealing with quite well. It's just only accelerated. And, if you look at our business, it's rather unique to some of the other traditional retailers that you see out there, because we do have the pharmacy and we do have a growing network of health care services that extend beyond the pharmacy. And their expectation is that I'm dealing with one Walgreens, right? A Walgreens that knows me, that the experience doesn't end when I walk out of the store, and a high convenience factor, right? So some of the things that we've continued to evolve in that vein, for instance, My Walgreens, which is our loyalty program, we've started to bring that all together and include health incentives in there. So we're now starting to not just focus on one in isolation of the other, like retail. We're starting to bring those three areas of our business together, and that's what happens when you put the customer in the middle, and you put an emphasis on driving an integrated experience. And I think if we get it right, we are going to be positioned well, not only to serve our communities, but I think to grow our business. I'm quite excited about it. And I think technology is at the middle of bringing that all together. And again, the expectations continue to evolve, and I feel like they're accelerating. And with technology, because it is such an enabler, it's going to continue to accelerate. So I think we're positioned quite well, and we have to keep on our toes and keep up the speed of our business and what our customers demand.
So to craft this customer experience, and you're talking a little bit here about personalization. In order to personalize this experience, data has to play a role. Can you explain what that role is with your business strategy? What are some of the important ways you're using data today to really craft that digital customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, usually when I get this question is, well, massive amount of data, right? I think in the U.S. it's 2 billion scripts per year, over 110 million loyalty. 9 million transactions either online per day or in the stores. There's data that comes from those transactions, and we can leverage that data to actually enhance the experience for future transactions and future experience. And that's what we try to do. But of course, we also, as part of those interactions, collect data that is health related. That's deeply personal to our customers, and we're best in class at that. There are privacy regulations that we adhere to, of course, where we need to, and some of our services around required consent. So we have that capability, but we are, I believe, best in class in terms of how we secure our data, but also how we hold the precious data that we have from a customer perspective to the highest standards, and we follow all regulations. Now, with the data, certainly on the retail side, we use that data to help enhance from a product selection perspective. We also, so we'll make recommendations based on past purchases, which is almost table stakes these days. But how we continue to leverage that data to advance the health and wellness of where we get consent, so we can make the right advice in terms of drug interactions and things of that nature, so that we can protect the safety of our patients. So it's really because of our business, privacy is very important to us. The security around the data, but how we leverage it, a lot of consent goes into it, but also for the safety of our patients. So we take that very seriously, and we have some of the best capabilities in the industry to not only provide the safety, but also protect the privacy of our patients. So, but data is very much at the core of how we run our business, and that's true of most businesses these days. Most digital businesses have to leverage data to serve their customers better, and we're no different, except for the fact that it does revolve around health data, and we have to take extra precautions on that.
So you kind of tapped into my next question, which is really about how you're about these opportunities, just all this access. all this access. I think we could go a little bit deeper there too. What are some of the things that you're doing that, extend out to the customer to let them know that you really care about the safety and their privacy when accessing these very personalized, when you're using this data to personalize their experience. There's some things that maybe the customer sees to give them some reassurance around that.
Well, we've made some investments over on the retail side where I believe, for instance, in our strategic relationship with Adobe, we invested in the Adobe platform and kicked off a mass personalization, which is really more one-to-one marketing. So we anticipate the individual's needs and we tailor our offerings, whether it be in the retail area, for instance. We make the right product selections. We talk to them about potential sales and things of that nature, and events. So we've, it's an example of where data personalized rather than mass marketed is being used to create that one-to-one relationship. And that's something that, there's a little known fact. One of our founders, Charles Walgreens, used to, back in the early days, in the early 1900s, he used to greet every person that came into the store personally. And we feel with some of the technology that we have, Adobe being one of them, we think we can get a little closer to what Charles Walgreens did and personalize the experience, whether you come into our stores, whether you interact with us online, or perhaps in between those interactions as we continue to connect with them over email and text, so that they know when for instance, the prescription is ready, they know when their favorite product goes on sale. So it's trying to take kind of what was special about us early in our early days and continue to make that special with every customer interaction.
Well, Mike, this was a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for sharing, your experience making the customer experience the best it can be at Walgreens Boots Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us at Transform 2022. We appreciate you.
Lenore, it's been my distinct pleasure to be here with you today. I'm looking forward to perhaps coming back real soon, but I really enjoyed today, and thank you for having me.
Thank you both for that really awesome conversation. I'm looking forward to seeing how other organizations take this and, use it to help improve their customer experience. Next up, we're going to take a journey with Turo. Avinash Gangadaran, CTO of Turo, discusses using real-time analytics to ensure a safer ride. It's fascinating stuff, and if you've got a few minutes before this session, don't forget to go and check out Turo's sponsor profile for more content and information on this. Just click the link above to access this session. All right, I've been really looking forward to this session. I'm now going to introduce to you Avinash Gangadaran, CTO of Turo. He's going to walk us through the evolution of Turo's technology and how the company unlocks peer-to-peer car sharing through data and AI and a lot more. So over to you, Avinash.
Hello all, my name is Avinash Gangadharan. I'm the CTO at Turo. I've been with Turo for 4 years now, prior to which I worked for larger enterprises including eBay, PayPal, and Walmart. Today I'm here to share Turo's journey with data, how data is at the center of how we build our product and operate the business. Let me start with our mission. Our mission at Turo is to put 1.5 plus billion cars in the world to better use. Today, we are in 4 countries, US, UK, Canada, and in France. We host over 200,000 active listings and have a very fast growing community of guests and hosts. We as a platform have evolved from our early days to where we are now. 10 years ago or 11 when we started, small company, of course, we've grown huge from where we were to where we are now, and the platform has evolved with it. We have aggressive goals for availability and security now. We strive for 4 nines uptime. We are cloud native, primarily running on AWS, and are built for horizontal scalability. Mostly, we do have a monolith, like many startups out there. We're diligently working on decomposing it, though. We have put a lot of emphasis on SEO and have a pretty good SEO score for our pages. 89% of our traffic last year was organic. This is SEO plus organic traffic coming. When it comes to security, we have significantly improved the last few years, and this has been a learning. We've added edge security, data layer security, and we monitor our site 24/7 with world-class observability tools. I'm so glad that we have some wonderful SaaS products out there that helps us do all of this now. So as a platform, we are fairly proud of what we've built so far. Now let's talk about data a bit. Data-driven decisions is at the core of our culture and execution. Supply and demand, which is the key for any marketplace, has scale via performance marketing, host incentives, supply quality efforts, and they have been powered from insights that we derived from our data. To improve our customer experience for guests, we leverage clickstream and transactional data to continuously simplify the conversion funnel. The simpler the product, the better it is for our customers, for any customers, in fact, out there. To improve our host experience, we power pricing and earnings estimate, leveraging data science models and offline analytics. Pricing, again, a key fundamental for any marketplace out there. When it comes to risk, I believe that managing risk is a fundamental need to run a successful and profitable marketplace. Risk tends to be the largest line item in a P&L. Obviously, if left unchecked, it becomes a make or break for businesses, specifically marketplaces. The best way to manage risk is by leveraging data generated on the platform, and that's what we've done. We have built IP leveraging data science in this space that helps us assess, monitor, and act. We built what we call Turo Risk Score that simplifies decision-making, streamlines customer experience, and helps us make smarter business choices every day. Likewise, deposits and fee determination is also powered by some of the data science models that we've built. These helps us make the marketplace more accessible while managing risk. We want our marketplace to be more accessible, and more accessible to a larger customer base. And we want to do it intelligently. This has been an evolution, though. We started with very basic choices. Risk and trust go hand in hand, as you can imagine, when it comes to a marketplace. Besides selection and value and convenience, a successful marketplace needs to have high levels of trust established for safe transactions. On a separate note, forecasting supply, demand, revenue, and unit economics has been a key challenge for many, during times that bring volatility. Pandemic times has been one such. I'm sure you've seen all of the challenges that came along with forecasting in such times. We have strong fundamentals driven by data in place that helps us stay on top of our trends and maintain a good balance of bold and conservative calls, optimizing for growth and profitability. Let's dig in a little bit more on how we do this. Let's dig in a little bit more deeper on how data has transformed us over time, especially in the area of risk and trust. Just to give you a sense of where our data is, where do we get the data, and the volume of data. We operate in 7,500 cities. We got claims data from 10 plus years. A claim is, a ticket that a host creates when an incident happens for a booking. We've had 23 plus million trip days booked on the platform, 2.7 billion plus miles driven, 4 million plus bookings that have consummated for 1,500 plus makes and models. We leverage this data for all aspects of our decision making. Experimentation and offline analytics helps us with supply and demand growth to simplify our customer experience. Experimentation is fundamental these days. Unless you A/B test the feature, you really don't want to push it out there. And I think we're pushing boundaries in this area. We do 20 plus experiments a month. Predictive modeling helps us with areas like search relevance, pricing, payment fraud and risk. Again, fundamentals, payment fraud, absolute fundamentals. We build some of these IPs, we build some of these models that helps us reduce activities like that. Offline analytics also drives 10,000 plus visuals on Domo, for example, or Tableau, which slices our business performance in many ways and allowing us to react to very granular changes and thereby empowering financial planning. Very critical for us. We slice and dice our business in many ways and in such granular levels that we can really track minute changes that happen on the platform. Over the years, we have evolved, how we've leveraged our data. Today, I'm proud to say that we have a 7-day moving average tracker for pretty much everything you can think of. There's a chart for pretty much everything. And it's pretty transparent. We all have access to it. We stay on top of that. As I mentioned earlier, the key to a marketplace success is risk management. We've built a proprietary risk scoring model that scores every transaction in real time. We call it the Turo Risk Score. These are a suite of models. These models consume 50 plus features spanning guests, vehicle, and host attributes. Things like payment method, market in which the car is listed or booked, driver's license information, the value of the car, horsepower of a car, things like year, make, model, they constitute some of these feature sets. And then there are these trip features, date and time of the trip, the number of days where in advance when the trip was booked, are some features that power these models. And some of them have very interesting outcomes. Getting here, though, identifying these feature sets has been a journey. We started with heuristics, like many do, leveraging attributes like age, type of payment method. We then added a few third-party data sources in the mix to look up ancillary data that determine risk. We came up with our first generation of the data science model in 2018. This was done by a team of one. We knew that our future lies with the investments we make in data. Since then, we've evolved to where we are now. A much larger team focuses on risk today, and they own several models that are optimized for granular outcomes. Today, 8 models, classifiers, and digressors come together to synthesize. Something went wrong again.
No, it's right when you went to this one, right? I think, if you don't mind.
As I mentioned earlier, the key to a marketplace success is risk management and building trust. We have built a proprietary risk scoring model that scores every transaction in real time. We call it the Turo Risk Score. These models consume 50 plus features spanning guests, vehicle, and host attributes. Things like payment method, market in which the car was listed or booked, the driver's license information, the value of the car, the horsepower of the car, year, make, model, are some such attributes. Another set of such interesting, attributes are the date on which the trip is getting booked, and the lead time, the days in advance of which the trip is getting booked. These have some interesting outcomes, the takeaways that we've seen, when we saw some of the importance of these features. Getting here, though, has been a journey. We started with heuristics, leveraging attributes like age and type of payment method, like everyone else does out there. Start with something basic, start with some heuristics, start with some hypothesis, and evolve. We then added a few third-party data sources to the mix to look up ancillary data that determined risk. We came up with our first generation data science model in 2018. Back then, it was a team of one. We knew that our future lies with investments we make in data. Since then, we have evolved to where we are now. A much larger team focuses on risk, owns these models, and continuously optimizes for much more granular outcomes. Today, 8 models, classifiers and regressors come together to synthesize this Turo risk score. We predict several things, including probability of an accident at the time of booking. And if there's an accident, the cost of damage. We also predict and assess, our ability to collect such damages from guests. Besides this, we predict the probability of things like what are the chances that the car will be totaled. Years of data have been used to train these models, which work on a very tight SLA to score every checkout that is attempted. These models are very closely monitored for performance and drift. Volatile periods and behaviors like 2020 have been a huge challenge, like you all, for us as well, specifically when it comes to predictive modeling. We stayed close to those deviations and we continuously fitted them. Now, Turo Risk Score has powered our decisions for managing strong unit economics while making the platform more accessible. We are the only platform out there that allows an 18-year-old to book a car. Debit cards continue to be a large segment of our payment volume, which is not accepted by many major traditional loan car companies. We leverage Turo Risk Score for targeting acquisitions, for acquisitions, for retentions, pretty much everything. It powers our guests and host incentives as well. We incentivize good behavior. We give access to risky customers by imposing certain things like deposits and fees. We're also making improvements in our search experience by doing risk upfront, higher up in the funnel, so that we drive these search results in a way where the drop-offs are minimal. We incentivize, again, as I said, favorable guests and extend the services to many, by leveraging deposits and fees and many other tools that we've built over time. Now, due to these investments in risk assessments, we've been able to make decisions that maximizes for growth, for profitability, and for a seamless customer experience. For example, last year we lowered our take rate by approximately 5%, thereby putting more money in our host pocket. We continue to look for such opportunities constantly. We look for opportunities that helps our host community, that gets access to a larger set of guests, that continuously simplifies our experience and builds up our inventory and helps us grow as a business. One interesting insight that I can share is that early planners tend to be lesser risky. So that was, in short, how data has evolved at Turo. Again, as I said, it's been a journey. We were a team of one when we started our first data science models. We're a team in, high single digits, low double digits right now. Not a huge team, of course, but still much larger than where we were. And we are much more smarter and we are much more mature when it comes to getting insights from our data and helping our customers and the business grow. And just to conclude, we at Turo have leveraged data for all aspects of our product and business. We still feel, though, that it's just the beginning. We are very excited about the potential that is ahead of us and the opportunity that we have to innovate. Thank you all.
Thanks for that wonderful, wonderful presentation, Avinash. I found it fascinating. Make sure to visit Turo's sponsor page profile before the next session, which is going to be a panel discussion with Tiger Girl. Thanks for that wonderful, wonderful presentation, Avinash. I found it fascinating. Make sure to visit Turo's sponsor page profile before the next session, which is going to be a panel discussion with Tiger Girl.
Hi, my name is Mike Booth. I'm the VP of Sales for the Americas for TigerGraph. Joining me today is Dan McCreary, Distinguished Engineer in the healthcare industry. Dan, welcome. Appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks, Mike. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
So Dan, maybe if you could just provide a bit of a background on your your work within the data and analytics space, and then we'll get through some questions and talk a little bit about graph analytics today.
Yeah, I'm a distinguished engineer. I work for a Fortune 5 healthcare company. And I work in a business unit that focuses on looking at all the hard problems our business units have, and then trying to match those with emerging technology stacks, graph analytics being a very prominent and important piece of the newer evolving technologies.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. So let's get started. I've got some questions around graph analytics. Well, when we first introduced to graph analytics, what's approximately year and first use case?
Well, I don't think that I would say that graph analytics was suddenly born. I think it evolved, but I'll tell you some very important dates. First date for me that I became aware of the role of graph analytics was in May of 2001, when the Scientific American published the Semantic Web article by Tim Berners-Lee. And that really started to say, gee, we can think of the entire web as one large graph, and then put it all together and then start to do analytics and the whole Sparkle evolution. The second big event was the introduction of Neo4j, one of the first tools, open source tools that allowed that to happen about February of 2010. But I think for me, in 2011, when I started my own conference called the NoSQL Now, it really started to solidify that graph analytics became one of the major 6 patterns, along with relational analytical, key value stores, column family stores, and document stores that were really front and center. But what's really happened was that we did many pilots up until about 2017. And it wasn't until TigerGraph came out that we really started to do distributed computing at scale and to handle all the scale out needs of the enterprise. And so those are all some of the key events. Right now, it's really distributed graph that is king of the hill. We've done lots and lots of departmental projects, but we've never really saved a lot of money and actually saved a lot of cost and gotten deep analytics until we can do distributed graph processing.
Right. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate your feedback. And it sounds like you've been working with the concept of graph for quite some time. Yes. Next question would be, what were the initial use cases that you were introduced to or thought that graph would be a good fit for?
Yeah, this is something that is evolving over time. But I'll tell you, the initial thing that we looked for was hard problems that had lots of relationships, right? Graph databases do relationship traversal fast. But what we found was that there were just lots of use cases, especially in healthcare, where clinical data was full of relationships. There's just so many things about a patient record, their conditions, their symptoms, their claims, their allergies, everything about them we could store easily in graph. And the problem was that we needed to pull all this data together and do very fast analytics over complex clinical data. We also integrated a lot more other touch points. Every time somebody visited our website, we'd like to know that. Every time we send them email messages, every time that they filled out a customer satisfaction survey after having a phone call. And what we evolved to call this is what we call our member 360, or often called customer C360. I think this is often a very good use case for a lot of companies that are new to graph, just getting all the touch points about your customers in one place. That means every time they come to your website, everything in your Salesforce system, everything in your CRM, your call management system, if all those things are in disparate silos, you can't really do good analytics. So I always think of put your customer at the center of your first use cases and see what comes out. Now, obviously, it depends on your industry, right? If you're in finance, fraud analytics and banking is really big. If you're manufacturer, supply chain is really big. But for healthcare, it is managing our patients' data and putting it all together in one spot and doing analytics that has really been the big money saver for us.
Great. So it sounds like lots of touch points, lots of attributes associated with a particular initiative really drive the use of graph at your organization today?
Yep, the more different ways you touch a customer, the more suitable graph is for solving your use cases. And remember, this is all about scalability. Yeah, you can put these all into tables, but if you look at a typical patient record, we have 50 different tables of data for each member when it comes up. And doing joins between all 50 tables and bringing those up in a 30 millisecond window, which is our SLA for our call center screens, we literally couldn't get that to scale on any amount of hardware. So using the idea of getting rid of joins, making everything just pointer hopping, and making sure that we spend all of our money getting that data together and connected correctly. Those are non-trivial problems. But if you don't have a scalable database, it doesn't matter how good your MDM and your algorithms are, it won't scale. So getting scalability first is important, and then getting all of those algorithms together to do all that integration is really the next big step.
Great. Great. Well, again, great feedback. Beyond scalability, do you have some additional capabilities that you think, whether it's now or evolving in the future, that Graph could provide to help your organization expand their use of Graph?
Yeah, we call this our use case portfolio, right? I wrote a blog called The Taxonomy of Graph Use Cases quite a while ago. And what I really focused on was three different things. One is performance, right? When do you have analytical systems that are too slow, so you can't do real-time analytics? And remember, there's this whole world of batch analytics where you're going to run a report, it runs overnight, it creates a dashboard. That's not a great fit for Graph. What is a great fit is when you need to be able to do interactive discovery, where you have a subject matter expert and a graph expert sitting together in the same screen and saying, well, what if we look at the data this way and this way, and we can do analytics so fast that we can iterate, we can do more experiments, we can see what the visualizations look like. And that discovery has been a really strong differentiator, something we can never do with the old OLAP cubes. The other thing just to really mention is when you talk about a capability, flexibility and agility is really one of the other forks of our taxonomy use cases. Flexibility means that we can take our existing queries, make some small changes, and get very different results. The way we traverse our data, having all these templates, allows us to quickly build new solutions to problems that we had never solved before. So the first one is performance. That's clear benefit, but the people don't realize that agility and flexibility of this are the other things that you get out of this. And then now there's a third fork in our taxonomy of evolution of use cases, and that's the ability to execute really complex rules at scale. Rules at scale. Now, you may be familiar with the traditional rules engines, Drools, right, and all the other Java-based tools. They have this problem that you have to, if you think of a decision tree, every time you hit a branch, are going to go right or left, you have to go back and do another query of that database. And those queries just take a long time to go through a decision tree. If we co-locate our data and our queries all in one spot, we bring them together and then we get super fast execution of these rules. And we're getting, 6 orders of magnitude increase than having to use traditional rules engines. So that performance that we get for combining rules and the data in one graph database means that we can go after complex rules that we never have been able to get at in the past. And that means that we can look at subtle things, we can do more statistical analysis, we can look at more data fields to derive these things. So the co-location of business rules and the data itself is a whole new set of use cases. And you can see some of my blogs on rules for knowledge graph rules that really talk about the subtleties of getting all those rules inside of a graph and getting them performant and scalable.
Yeah, great feedback, Dan. And interestingly enough, we see a lot in the field of a complement of graph with predictive rules engines, whether it's in fraud analytics or any sort of predictive rules use cases where the additional insight is required to make a decision. Graph is a wonderful complement to what predictive rules engines can already provide. And so it sounds like you're saying, it's a similar thing, and just an understanding of the role graph plays in supporting predictive rules engines and such.
Yep.
Next question. Yeah, next question I have for you, Dan, is, I know you do a lot of work with AI and ML within your organization. I'm curious, how do you see Graph integrating with AI and ML projects today? And first, do you see it, and how do you see it?
Absolutely. Well, one of the quotes I always use is that innovation happens at the seams of technology, right?
Yep.
We have a lot of great innovations in Graph, and we have a lot of great innovations in standard machine learning. The role of NLP is just skyrocketed lately. But it's really when we marry Graph together with machine learning that we're really getting some great innovation. And the best way to summarize this is the fact that in the past, most of our analytical databases were really good at doing what we call counts and amounts, right? They'd take a column of data and they would sum and total those things and add them all up, and you'd get the sums of the amounts of claims in a certain area of a certain condition and disease, and you could do that by building these aggregates. But graph machine learning is fundamentally different than doing counts and amounts. It asks the question, given a patient sitting in front of me, who's the most similar patient to this patient? It asks the questions about similarity. Similarity is, instead of this vertical counts and amounts, it says, let's look at all the other patients around me and then figure out who am I closest to. Even if I have 100 million patients, I still can use Graph to, within 30 milliseconds, find the 100 most similar patients on the planet Earth that are most similar to me in my condition. And that is really the truly amazing thing that we're starting to see when we combine Graph with machine learning. The way we explain a lot of this is through this magical term called an embedding. Now, I know that's a little bit of a mind jump for a lot of people of what these embeddings are, but basically they're a data structure that allows us to do comparison really fast. And if you think of the idea of comparison, comparing me with 100 million other people, if I had 100 million processors, I could give my profile to each of those processors. They could independently come with a similarity score, and they can bring those back. It's an embarrassingly parallel problem. And that's what graph databases do really well, is they solve these parallel problems. But we still have a lot of hard problems in front of us. I don't want to simplify this, because even today, if you take things like, how does time take a role in the role of patient similarity? If I had a COVID patient, somebody who had COVID last week versus somebody who had COVID last year, their embeddings should look very different. So our algorithms have to take time into account, and they're not. Right? There's some new research coming out called graph temporal networks. Those are going to be really important for us. And there's so many places where we have to do complex things, fuzzy matching, temporal analysis. All those are big challenges that are ahead of us. We are getting to the stage where we can create embeddings for basic things. But now we need to create better embeddings, higher quality embeddings. Net result of this, better recommendations, right? That's the fundamental thing most recommendations are built on, is if you go to a shopping site, find other people like me. What did they buy, right? What does their purchase history look like? And can we recommend items that might be relevant for my context? Recommendation drives billions and billions of dollars a year in a lot of e-commerce sites. And now we're getting to the stage we can combine graph with machine learning to build great similarity, great recommendations, and really deeper insights in the groups of customers, their behaviors, our patients, their conditions, and all the other attributes that have been really difficult when we just put these rows and columns into tables.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, no, very great point, Dan. And I think you talk a lot about the use of graph in terms of enabling AI and ML. And my thought goes to data scientists working with graph analytics capabilities today. What are your thoughts around enabling the business with this sort of information? And does that come via business interface? Or working closely with data science teams? What are your thoughts of taking this great information and enabling the business to make decisions?
Yes, that's a really great question, Mike. I think this is intuitive to me because I deal with about 3,200 data scientists on a weekly basis, and I've seen their incredible productivity gains. But let's just go back and remember one fundamental rule about data science, and that is that 80 to 90% of a job of a traditional data scientist is data janitorial work. It's finding the data, finding the meaning of the data, the semantics of the data, figuring out what the stupid numeric codes really mean, applying a data dictionary, loading the data, connecting the data, deduplicating the data. All of those are things that data scientists have to do today. But now let's take a twist on this. What if instead of just throwing 3,200 data scientists at the data lake and say, go figure it out, which when we get is 3,200 different Python libraries that all try to ingest this, right? What if,
Right.
and we call that that pattern schema on read. Everybody who reads the data has to figure out the schema. What if
Right.
instead we said schema on write? Schema on write says every time we write the data, we work with the subject matter experts in and we connect the data correctly and validate it and get it all cleaned up. And that means our data scientists move up the ladder of semantics. They become not just information scientists, but what we call knowledge sciences. Right? So
Right.
knowledge science is the ability to use pre-connected, clean, vetted, high-quality data and immediately build your machine learning models from those things.
Right.
And so it is a huge productivity gain. Seems intuitive, seems common sense, but a lot of people that are just struggling with the data lakes haven't figured that out yet. So it's a big boost, and now we need to continue to move on to build more training programs so our data scientists, as we onboard them, we educate them. And yeah, you don't have to go down and be the data janitorial because we've got this data already there. You just need to learn how to query it and get the right data sets for building.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, no, great feedback, and you make some great points. And it actually leads me to one of my last questions. If you think about where the data is today and the way organizations have traditionally managed data through RDBMS, do you see an impact in the way data is managed with graph databases going forward? And how does that look in comparison to the way it's being done today with RDBMS?
Yeah, there's two things I want to talk about here. First of all, the innovations that we're learning through graph are going to filter back down into relational databases, right? So all the work we're doing with GQL, we're going to retrofit into PSQL, property graph query languages. And there's nothing that's inherent in graph about building embeddings. So to be a player in the future, every relational database company is going to have to build embeddings for every row, just like we build embeddings for every vertex and graph. So those things are going to spread throughout our data science community. But there's one important thing that I think we have to keep in mind, and that is that none of the current hardware that we're using today has been tuned to work with graph databases, right? Typical data centers are still using CISC processors, these complex instruction set processors. The Intel Xeon is a typical architecture. And if you look at their instruction sets, 500 different instructions in the instruction set, you ask the simple question, what percentage of those instructions do we really use on an average day using graph analytics? And the answer is 3, 4, 5% of those instructions. So what if we took all the rest of the instructions we don't use and threw them out and optimized our hardware for graph traversal, right? Pointer hopping. That's really the core thing that we use in graph databases. And my analysis, and I've blogged about this on the early blogs on Intel Puma, I call it hog heaven, right? Hardware optimized graph, HOG, where we have hardware that's customized to do pointer hopping, that native property graph world. And what I'm predicting is, remember, today, just using pointers over joins, we get 3 orders of magnitude. Distributing that, we get 100 servers, you get 5 orders of magnitude. What are we looking for in the next year or two? I'm looking for new processing, new generations of processors that will give me 3 orders of magnitude increase in performance. So that's 8 total magnitudes of order of increase in performance between what we are doing in traditional relational and what we could be doing once we optimized our hardware for graph analytics. That should point to everybody in saying, if you are not using that technology in the future, you're not going to be doing the analytics that your competition is doing. And we see a huge increase of companies differentiating themselves because they're getting better at predicting the future. And that's what recommendation and prediction engines are all about.
Right. Great. Again, thanks, Dan. That's great insight. And, based on your experience, the last question I have is, organizations are now considering Graph as a part of their analytics platform. What advice would you give to an organization that's, at an early stage of considering Graph and they think they've got some good use cases for it? What advice would you give to those just getting started with Graph?
Well, the bottom line is that although many people that have a strong computer science background have a good appreciation of the difference between a pointer hop and a join of billions of rows in memory every time you run a query. Right? We have an intuitive sense that pointer hops are about 3 orders of magnitude faster than doing joins of tables every time we query. But to be honest, our executives, our decision makers often come from the finance area and a lot of areas where computer science wasn't part of the curriculum that they grew up. And that means that when you say the word database, they kind of say all of these databases, they're kind of the same, right? And the reason I wrote my book, Making Sense of NoSQL, was to educate these executives in a non-technical way and tell them stories about how these databases are dramatically different. So my first advice is, don't just tell them feeds and speeds of how much faster you can do it. You need to put stories around. You really make these stories fun or exciting or funny so that they'll remember the stories after you walk away and after they have discussions with their peers. So a lot of my blogs are about creating these funny stories, which are all grounded in truth. Don't get me wrong. You can't tell stories just about fantasy. But the neighborhood walk story is a very classic story about how we need to work together to really find these stories and build them out and make them executable so that we can test these stories. And how do we do that? 2 weeks after we have a meeting with our executives, we go back and ask them, well, what did you remember 2 weeks ago? Did these stories stick? If they don't stick, your stories aren't working, right? So you got to go and refine those stories, make them better, make them funnier, make them more compelling, but also review the stories with your architects that do have an appreciation to make sure that those stories are right. So they all are part of the way that we help people make graph analytics real. And it's not just this long, distant future research vision. We can have material impact of our analytics today.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. You and I have talked about that in the past, and I've been the beneficiary of some great stories coming out of your organization and really saving people's lives. So again, appreciate all of the feedback that you've provided today. You're certainly an industry expert in this space, and sharing this information, I hope, is very valuable for those that get the opportunity to view it. Dan, thanks a million for your time today. Really appreciate it. Great catching up as always.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. Look forward to talking to you more in the future.
That was a wonderful panel discussion there. Remember to visit TigerGraph's sponsor profile. Of course, the more sponsor profiles you visit and the sessions that you watch, better chance that you have of winning a prize. Check out the leaderboard on the top navigation bar to see if you're in with winning a chance. And don't worry if your name's not there. You got the rest of today and next week at the AI and Edge Week to make up the difference. So next up is a conversation with Andrew Davidson, SVP of Cloud Products for MongoDB, and Shiv Ramji, Chief Product Officer of Auth0, about re-engineering global platforms for our multi-cloud reality. Click the link above to access. All right, to take us into the weekend, we have this next awesome session. Andrew Davidson, SVP of Cloud Products from MongoDB, and Shiv Ramji, Chief Product Officer of Auth0, discuss how a multi-cloud strategy is a must for enterprises and to be cloud agile. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Of course, if you have any questions for our speakers, you know where to go. Use that type chat box. Don't be shy. So without further ado, over to you, Andrew and Shiv.
Hi, folks. I'm Andrew Davidson, SVP of Cloud Products here at MongoDB, and I'm super excited to be speaking at VentureBeat Transform. Joining me today is Shiv Ramji, Chief Product Officer of Auth0, and he's joining us live from Tanzania. I'm in New York City. Shiv?
Thanks, Andrew, for the intro. So yes, I'm the Chief Product Officer at Auth0, and I've been focused on building developer products for a while. And I'm really excited and glad to be joining you today to talk about our journey together.
Fantastic. Yeah, so for folks who might not know, I oversee MongoDB Atlas, which is our fully managed developer data platform, and it's available across AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud in over 100 regions. If you're not that familiar with MongoDB, a quick overview. We were founded back in 2009 by the team at DoubleClick, and basically, this was right when cloud was becoming a thing. And MongoDB kind of rode that journey of cloud nascent adoption in those early days, democratizing a distributed system for developers when distributed systems could make cloud useful. Now, if you think about what MongoDB's early founders were really trying to do, they wanted to make it possible to scale beyond what traditional legacy relational databases could do. And they wanted a database that was truly native for developers, that express the document model the same way that those developers think and write their code. Now we very much conceptualize ourselves as a truly global developer data platform. So returning to Shiv, Shiv is a builder with an obsession with creating beautiful products. He believes in empowering developers as they are the new creators, the decision makers, the taste makers, and frankly, the artisans of our time defining the digital economy. He's currently the Chief Product Officer at Auth0 and Okta Product Unit, where he's responsible for the company's product, data, security, and technology strategy and execution. Before Auth0, Shiv led products at DigitalOcean, another wonderful developer-oriented company, by the way, Amazon Advertising, NBC Universal, and the Nielsen Company. Over the last year, Shiv oversaw Auth0's re-architecting of its platform onto MongoDB Atlas, and today we're going to talk about that. So Shiv, thanks so much for joining me. It's really wonderful to see you again after seeing you a few weeks ago in New York City for MongoDB World, or as I have been calling it, Database Disneyland. It was just so much fun for me. So to set the scene, Shiv, can you give an overview of what Auth0 does and how you're helping end users? I'm sure our audience uses your platform every day without even realizing it. Could you share a few key customers and how Auth0 is working behind the scenes to keep those end users secure?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So I think the way to think about what we do is we provide a login as a service, and I'm overly simplifying what we do, but that's the easiest way for anybody to understand. So actually, there's a good chance that many of you today had 8 or 9 or even all of your logins today that were powered by our service. So essentially, we provide a login or identity as a service to our customers, who then can easily implement them to ensure that their consumers have a seamless and secure experience so that they can go ahead and access their applications online. And so, and as you can imagine, identity sort of is the new security perimeter, if you will. And it's like the front door to your application, right? Like think about how many applications all of us, including you, Andrew, just logged in this morning. And all of those need a seamless login experience. And so that's what we're focused on. And, you know, we are now part of we're now part of Okta. We were acquired a little over a year ago. And they do and, you know, Okta does something very similar in that it's essentially giving you a seamless and secure experience from an employee perspective. So our focus is really on the customer. And what I mean by that is, you know, for SaaS companies. And core focus was really on securing employee access. And so together now, as a combined entity, We essentially power login experiences for over 15,000 customers globally, and ensuring that we're providing this critical tier one infrastructure to ensure that that their customers can seamlessly log in into their applications.
I love that. And I think it's so important to remind everyone that 15,000 customers, each of whom may have hundreds of thousands to millions of end users that are interacting and logging in every day. And it's just a massive reach. People all over the world, I'm sure, using your service to just, to your point, kind of get out of the way and in a secure way, access all the products we know and love. That makes perfect sense. Love it. So being able to provide your identity and authentication services to users is such a mission critical service, since frankly, users aren't going to tolerate any latency or downtime. Tell me about the evolution of your platform and how you came to the decision to re-architect it to seamlessly be able to serve your customers on multiple cloud platforms.
Yeah, so I think, just a little bit of context, maybe we've been working with Mongo from the very, very early days, not just since app introduced. We've been sort of a big Mongo customer and user from when the company started, which was in 2013. And, the idea, first and foremost, the MongoDB developer experience made it so easy for us to essentially build a service that scaled to millions of logins per month out of the box, right? But as the company started scaling, we essentially had to make sure that our login service can scale to billions of logins per month. And who probably have millions of consumers who are constantly logging in to access services. So you have to really be able to support that level of scale. And so there are three really elements of providing this critical tier 0 service that we've sort of been focused on. First off is the product or service has to be always on. Like, we cannot have login going on for our customers, because if login isn't working, well, you're kind of blocked at the front door, right? So, and by the way, the impact can be pretty catastrophic, right? It could be, you can have a lot of support calls, you can have revenue impact, you can impact your conversions. All sorts of things can happen that our customers do not want. The second one is, I mentioned earlier in my opening, that identity is a new security perimeter. So the product has to be secure by design. That's really the service that we provide. And so making sure that the product is secure. And then finally, we want to make sure that the product is built for scale. I think there are two parts to that. The first one is, we have lots of customers who have variable traffic. So you can think about seasonality, or you can think about traffic spikes during holiday months or during peak shopping seasons. So we have to be able to scale up our environment, but equally important that we should be able to scale down our environment when they do not require as much capacity or capability to process traffic. And so I think the last part, this built for scale, is really, really important. And obviously doing all of this with high availability. And so, what we would promise our customers is a service that's available with an SLA of 4 nines to really ensure that the product is going to be delivering to its promise.
That makes perfect sense. And I'm imagining that being able to be in the infrastructure back end of your customer's choice and to be able to have multi-cloud resiliency all factor into that. I love what you said around just great, easy security built in. In other words, democratizing, making it possible to build software that has great security built into it. I think that's so synergistic with kind of how we conceptualize ourselves as well. And we know that the database is certainly not the only part of the stack, and making it possible to build the application and the database that powers it behind the scenes, all end-to-end, easy to do with security best practices built in, just means all of us around the world have a better baseline, and that's such a wonderful thing. How does your platform function on the back end, and I guess where does the database come into it?
Yeah, so the way to think about it is, the database layer, or specifically MongoDB, sits in a very critical part of our stack, because that is the database that we use to essentially authenticate all of our users globally. And so it's a critical piece of what we call our authentication and authorization pipeline. And we provide two different services today, by the way, two different SKUs, if you will. We have customers who are deployed in a shared environment or a multi-tenant environment. and we have customers who have dedicated environments. And the reason why customers pick these different environments largely depends on their needs for the dedicated environments. It could be because of data residency. It could be because they have performance needs that are very unique to what they're doing. So we provide this deployment flexibility for customers, and essentially that allows them to use the product in ways that sort of make sense for their architecture. And so one critical part is not only deployment flexibility in terms of different shared or dedicated instances, we also essentially provide a service that is deployed across multiple clouds. So we started providing our service on AWS primarily, but today we also have our service available on Azure. And so when you think about the database technology that we were using or picking, we wanted to make sure that we were able to use that same technology regardless of the cloud provider. I mean, today we have two cloud providers. In the future, as customers demand support for other clouds, make sure that we're supporting the technology that really works. Then the second part of this sort of where the database sits and the criticality of it is we wanted to make sure that our product really and the database is highly available and also has geo failover capabilities, right? Just given the SLA commitments that we have to our customers, we want to make sure that the database technology is able to deliver to that. And I think the last thing is really, we want the database technology to be able to scale as our customers scale or as we scale. And so it was really, really critical for us to work with the database technology that's going to be able to scale. And then over time, obviously, we're always like any other SaaS company, we're always looking to have operational efficiencies and essentially removing any undifferentiated heavy lifting that we're doing, and work with vendors who can take that on for us.
Got it. No, that's a wonderful overview of some of the key qualities that I think you were looking for in a database. We launched Atlas 6 years ago, and at that time, many people, frankly, were skeptical of a fully managed database service. I think if you fast forward to today, the fastest moving companies really understand that to extract the full value from the cloud, a managed service is just the perfect abstraction. To turn it over to you, I'd love to know about your move from self-managing MongoDB to MongoDB Atlas and how that has eased the operational burden of your engineering teams.
Yeah, so I'll start with sort of a little bit of a context of our environment. And so one example was just as we were scaling in different geographies or as we're scaling different customers, one big need was just the ability to launch new environments. And because we were self-hosting and managing our MongoDB instances, believe it or not, we were, environment creation was so long. I remember when I joined Auth0, environment creation was literally up to 3 or 4 months. And we methodically brought that down to like 3 months from 3 months to 3 weeks. And today, as a result of our migration and using MongoDB Atlas, it's now down to 2 hours. So just think about the orders of magnitude impact that we can have in terms of ability to spin up new environments and meet our customers' needs. So I think that was one really, really important part of picking the service like Atlas so that we can really reduce the time to create new environments. The second part is, as part of our SLA and commitments to our customers, we also commit to an RPO target of about 1 minute and an RTO target of about less than 15 minutes. These are recovery point objective and recovery time objective. And it was incredibly difficult for us to do that internally because just the time to recover our services was taking too long. Because, we were managing all of these instances, we were building all internal tooling. And so I think the other benefit of using a managed service like MongoDB Atlas is that we are able to deliver to these RPO and RTO targets to our customers. And the reason is because, we get to leverage all the innovations you are building and working on so that we don't have to worry about those. And I think the last part is really around migrations. For a product like ours, we have to embrace migrations. And for many reasons, some of them being you're constantly right-sizing your environment, right? So if you think about a multi-tenant environment, you can have noisy neighbor issues. So you're constantly sharding and right-sizing environments. You're launching in new geos or markets. So you want to be able to launch new environments very, very quickly and migrate customers over. And so migration is something that we have embraced as a core capability for our customers. I also wanted to highlight the ability to easily migrate our customers across environments on Atlas was like a really, really big deal for us. And just to give you like a very tangible example, some of our customers in the dedicated environment could have 30,000 tenants because, they have many customers and they may have created a tenant for each customer. And we want to be able to seamlessly move them over into a new environment. And so I think that was really critical. And so those were some of the reasons why we went down this route of moving to a managed service, specifically MongoDB Atlas, so that we can get to serve our customers the way we want to.
That was a wonderful overview, and you really had me at 3 months to 2 hours. I might quote you on that, Shiv. And by the way, I'll point out that Auth0 is a digital native, born in the cloud type company. High growth from the beginning, very sophisticated. And still, it just shows how much, frankly, undifferentiated mucking around went in. Imagine how some of the more traditional enterprises, how long it might take them to set up new environments before they move to this next generation of abstraction. It's remarkable. That's wonderful. So, as you went down and sort of implemented using MongoDB and Atlas, either in the past or more recently, did you face any major challenges?
Yeah, I think if you think when you're doing migrations of this scale, where we have thousands of customers who then have thousands of tenants and then millions of consumers who are logging in, it is always a very delicate balance to do this in production scenarios. And so maybe just a couple of things we had to do. The first thing was, because we grew really, really fast, we had really, really large collections in our sort of self-managed and self-hosted environments. So I think the first challenge was just to essentially right-size our collection sizes. And what I mean by that is reducing those collection sizes, because some of our services were storing data and we didn't really need to store as much data. And so we did that first. The second thing was, as part of the migration process, we wanted to make sure that we've really tested everything that we could. And we did that in our staging environment. But as many of you know in the audience, it's very hard to have a replicated environment to your production environment. Staging environments give you a lot of capability to test, but it's not always mimicking production traffic. And we have different regions. So different regions have very different traffic patterns too. So we did a lot of testing with the MongoDB team, the PS organization, to make sure that we had tested as much as we can. And our strategy was one where we started with, the smaller or lower traffic regions to make sure that we all of the kinks in production. So we did have some of those, we had down to single digit minute downtime for our customers who were making the cutover. But as we went through that process, we improved that and brought it to a point where our customers didn't really even notice that we had made the cutover. But so those were some of the things, reducing size, making sure we have tested and coordinated everything, and then just having a progressive rollout strategy versus turning everything onto the new service.
That's great. And it sounds like you've been able to unlock just a ton of benefits ultimately for your end customers, which is, of course, what it's all about. Has it been a collaborative journey working with the MongoDB team? I hope there's been a real partnership type of mentality. Any surprises as you started to work with MongoDB, especially as you've scaled?
No, I think our partnership has been really fantastic. I think what I love the most about the MongoDB team is just your sheer honesty. I think we were pushing for, in some cases, and this is classic of when you're managing and yourself, you have a certain assumptions, and we went to the MongoDB team and said, hey, here are our assumptions. We just want to take this whole thing, lift and shift. And they were like, wait a minute, we really need to understand what you're trying to do and work with you so that we can help you manage this seamlessly. And because the DB team had done this multiple times for multiple customers, we were able to essentially leverage a lot of the learnings along the way that really helped us to mitigate sort of any issues with the migration capabilities. And then I think finally, from a product perspective too, just and Sahir and the rest of the MongoDB team, where we can come in and provide sort of our feedback and challenges that we're working through. And you guys have been fantastic because you've connected us to either internal resources or external resources that have helped us to unblock any challenges that we ran into. So really appreciate the partnership.
Customer obsession is the name of the game. And I think that's a great segue to, let's shift gears a little bit in this conversation and talk a little bit more peer-to-peer. We're both in developer-obsessed companies, which is just a unique market segment. It's bottoms-up, product-led growth, helping developers just implement, show, don't tell, making it possible for people to immediately experience value. What does developer experience mean for you at Auth0, one of the true leaders in the industry at this? And how does that impact how you build your products and services?
Yeah, so we have a few concepts that, these have been true while I was at DigitalOcean, but we truly have embraced them at Auth0. And we sort of have these 5 areas that we look at, or specifically 5 areas that we build into our product to make sure that we're delivering a delightful developer experience. So the first one tends to be, is it easy to get started? And so our investments in making sure you have sample apps, we have sort of this getting started and onboarding experience that allows you to get an app live in less than 2 hours. In many cases, we have developers who implemented Auth in just a matter of minutes. And sometimes they actually deploy those apps into production. And we're like, wait a minute, don't do that. You're on a free account. So easy to get started. Easy to use, obviously, is really, really critical. So you want to make sure the product is easy to use. And then the other thing type that is to get help. So whenever you're stuck, this is where documentation it plays a really critical part in the content that we produce. We also make it easy to customize, and I use the developer term easy to hack. I don't mean hack so that the product is compromised. I mean hack in the context of making it easy for a developer to extend or customize a product. And I think the last one, which I think is truly probably more unique to the product and service that we're delivering, is that is the service or product that we're delivering easy to secure? And so security is a really important part of our developer experience, and we sort of weave that into everything that we build.
I love that. That's such a great set of sort of 5 standards, and they resonate so much with me. In particular, I like that easy to hack in the customized sense, kind of open and composable. I think it's so important to be open and composable rather than an opinionated kitchen sink, because we're selling to people who are builders who want to be able to compose with us as part of the component. We're not the full application that they're building and selling to their end consumer or customer. So it's such a unique space to be in. Again, so synergistic. You may or may not know this, that we offer primitives inside of MongoDB Atlas that directly tie into Auth0 for our joint customers to power authentication experiences in our Atlas App Services, for example. So what's next for Auth0? Are there any new projects, looking ahead at your roadmap, or anything from a vision perspective that particularly excites you?
Yeah, I think so for our customers and perhaps folks who are in the audience today. I think all of us are dealing with this notion of, or we want to deliver on this promise of a passwordless experience. And so we continue to make investments and focus area and focus our investments in the areas of essentially a place where passwords are a thing of the past. So that's one really big area of focus for us. The other area of focus for us is, almost every company is essentially a software company today. Even in the context of digital transformation, everybody is embracing delivering experience software. And if you look at that trend, well, every company essentially is providing software as a service to their customers. And so there is this other category that we're really focused on to empower software as a service businesses to scale very, very quickly to serve their customers, whether they are businesses, their businesses with then have employees, or their business with have consumers. We're going to serve all of those needs. And so we're really focused on making sure, especially now that we're part of Okta, that if you're a SaaS business and you want to go out there and serve your customers, you want to pick our platform, because across both sides, what Okta does with powering workforce experiences and what we do, which is powering customer experiences, we can make it really, really easy for you to scale. Another exciting area, just about a week and a half ago, we open sourced our OpenFGA, and essentially what it is bringing this delightful developer experience and everything that we have built and learned through the first product at Auth0, which is really authentication as a service. We want to bring all of that magic now to authorization as a service and provide a product that can scale to our customers' needs. So that's another really, really exciting development that we've had that we're looking forward to continue to iterate and build on, get a lot of feedback from our customers. And so those are some exciting things that we have coming up.
That's great. I really have to say I love the combination of Okta and Auth0. It's just such a marriage made in heaven. We were talking about a lot of the synergies with Auth0, but I'll say we at MongoDB are big customers of Okta, love it. And so many of our customers federate their identities into the MongoDB Atlas control plane, as you can imagine, or the console, through their own Okta SAML-based identity federation. It's just such a wonderful end-to-end security posture to have. So, look, to close it off, I was hoping you could leave the audience with the biggest lessons you've learned from your database migration and what advice you could offer to other tech leaders who find themselves in a similar position.
Yeah. Well, I have some advice here which that probably resonates specifically for database migrations, and some of it kind of ties into anybody taking on a big platform sort of re-architecture or modernization, if you will. I think lesson number one for us was we internally never positioned this as, we need to pay down tech debt and this is slowing us down. Like we never, one of the things we made sure was that internal buy-in positioning was really focused on this is going to unlock future value. So for example, in our case, future value is you can deploy to a new cloud, Azure. We can essentially deploy features faster because we would have parity across both deployment types, right? So we really made sure that the positioning of this was focused on customer value as opposed to internal hurdles. And I think that really helped us. And then when you're taking on a big database migration, I cannot stress, chunking the problem down into smaller bites. All the things I just mentioned earlier, we reduced the size of our collections before we started the migration. We made sure we had tested it in different environments before we started the production migration. And then frankly, where we did not have the answers, we partnered with teams such as MongoDB's to ensure that, if there are things that we did not know or weren't answering, that we're able to get the right help and the right contextual help that was required to do that. So those are 3 big learnings.
Wonderful. It's been a great journey together, and I look forward to our continued partnership going forward. So Shiv, that brings us to the end of our segment today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for the great conversation, Shiv and Andrew. And of course, thanks to all of you for attending. That's a wrap for week 1 of Transform. We had a great event in San Francisco on Tuesday. It was wonderful to see everybody in 3D for once. And of course, we followed that with incredible virtual content Wednesday, Thursday, and today. Next week is the AI and Edge week. Get ready. And start your sessions. You won't want to miss out on getting the latest as it's shared on this platform, and get a chance, of course, don't forget to network with all your peers, ask speakers questions, and keep totting up those points. You might win some wonderful prizes. Of course, before we sign off, we couldn't do this without our wonderful sponsors. We want to make sure that we thank them once again for bringing Transform 2022 to you. Great supporters of the event. You've provided incredible content, and I'm super looking forward to next week. So everybody, have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you Tuesday for the AI ML Automation Summit.
How can the right partner help your business build something wonderful? Intel helps you get the most out of all your data by deploying intelligence exactly where it provides the greatest value, powering your business to find new insights, unlock new revenue, and discover fresh opportunities from edge to cloud to data center and everywhere in between. Together, let's accomplish something wonderful. At Capital One, we combine the power of a machine learning model with a cloud-based multi-region infrastructure, making banking better by strengthening the reliability of our mobile app so that our customers can stay connected to their money anywhere. Learn how we're using a cloud-native architecture to fuel the future at CapitalOne.com/cloud. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
The world seems to be spinning faster. New technologies are accelerating our lives. The markets are changing faster and faster. New products and services are disrupting old ones, and huge companies are disappearing. We all feel the speed and the need to compete. Our demands have increased in our private and business lives. We want instant answers and no waiting time. Time is the most valuable asset of human beings. Nobody wants to waste it for poor service. Customer experience has become a crucial competitive factor. Cognigy makes life easier for everyone and service a magical experience. We will help you to improve your service quality and cut costs at the same time. Our platform based on AI delivers personalized experiences at scale. Conversational service automation is the future of customer service. Cognigy AI. No time to waste.
AI itself is at an inflection point, and for a decade, we have set the pace for innovation unmatched anywhere in the market. Together, we're pushing the limits of both human and machine.
The power of AI is now in the hands of anyone that can use it.
We're pushing the limits of how AI can become even more aligned to the needs of every business.
We're seeing a fundamental shift towards making AI more accessible, faster, and impactful for businesses.
Tools like Data Robot can offer us an awful lot of potential.
How is our collaboration helping our customers?
This opportunity to build turnkey solutions that help customers accelerate their time to value.
Complete enterprise operations for all parts of the model lifecycle.
You can ensure that you'll never be in the dark when it comes to tackling AI bias.
Welcome to Data Robot AI Experience 2022.
AstraDB, a flexible database as a service built on the open source Apache Cassandra project. It's a NoSQL distributed database that is known for its high scalability and availability. Data is partitioned and distributed around a cluster in separate nodes to increase performance, and replicated to ensure your data is always available. You can interact with your data using REST, GraphQL, and document APIs using Stargate.io, an open source data layer included in AstraDB, or directly with the Cassandra query language in a CQL console. It comes with a generous free tier to get started, and setting up a database is simple. Just log in with an email, Google or GitHub account, select Create Database, give it a database name, key space name, and select the cloud provider and region you prefer. That's it. You now have a 3-node Cassandra cluster in less than 5 minutes. For more information on AstraDB, check out the other videos in our AstraDB playlist. If you want to learn more about Cassandra, check out our Intro to Cassandra crash course or catch one of our weekly workshops. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.
Labelbox is a training data platform designed to help you iterate better. Use active learning to find model errors and prioritize labeling high-value data to improve performance. Accelerate velocity through collaboration, labeling automation, and low-code model training integrations. The result is a streamlined workflow, high-quality data, and consistently more accurate models in less time for less spend. We're trusted by Fortune 500 enterprises and leading companies fueled by AI. Try Labelbox for free today.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology and the modern vaccines that today protect everyone you know? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
Waterfall ball. Main stage. 4, 3, 2, 1. 0+1. Affirmative.
Keep going, baby.
Still rising. Recorders on.
Keep going. Look at her go, hon.
There's greatness inside you, just waiting to be uncovered. It's a journey, a change in mindset. So let's get going. Let's grow with engaging content and a learning experience designed to help you be a better you. This is a commitment to continuous learning in an ever-changing world. Because you're an asset worth investing in. You are invaluable. Find the greatness inside you with Skillsoft.
Hey, I'm Joe, and Graph plus AI is transforming the world and is with me every day of my life. From the time I get up, Google, what does my commute to work look like?
32 minutes with moderate traffic.
To knowing my payment is secure when I buy a cup of coffee. And when it's time for my meeting, I can see how I'm connected to the customer on LinkedIn and which connections we have in common. I can even check the latest shoes for my training session. More importantly, I'll know when it's time to buy the return gifts for Danny's birthday next month. And when I'm back home, I can find the next big show to binge on after the season finale of Westworld. As you can see, I've been doing it all with a graph, from the time I wake up until the end of the day. Welcome to the age of graph.
Hello, have you met Typeform? If you want to grow your business, you should. Typeform is redefining how brands and people connect in the digital world with vibrant forms, surveys, quizzes, and asynchronous video solutions designed to keep the conversation going so you can engage with new and existing customers simply, seamlessly, beautifully, leading to more responses, higher completion rates, and the data you need to accelerate growth. It's that simple. Want to learn more? Say hello to Typeform.